Let's call the meeting of the Ped Paddle and Pedal Committee to order. Over here.
We'll do the pledge. Get this
Okay.
flag out of the way here.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Flag
United States of
of
America,
America,
Republic, for which it stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty
and
for all.
justice for all. Wonderful. And here's the agenda before you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm getting back to that. All right, very good. So the minutes, everyone's received a copy of the minutes, and they're for review only. If there's not any, you see them up in front of you there. I read them. I didn't see anything that needed to be adjusted. So we'll move on. All right, next is we'll go right into pedestrian.
Or PED, yeah. I mean, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to deal with the first two items concurrently here. The first one is the Greenways and Blueways map application. I've had this probably on the agenda for the last year or so, or even longer, and I know it's taking a while. I always say we're moving at the speed of government. Please just bear with us. The vendor, My City Bikes, is in the process of making this application live on iPhone and Google app stores. So that's what the holdup is. And apparently that takes a few weeks before both Apple and Google receive it, process it, make sure there's no funny business, and then they make it live. So we're in the process of making sure that there's no funny business here. And once we have that clarification, confirmation from both Apple and Google, we will make a public announcement, making it clear that the app is now available, probably right in time for winter biking. I hope not, but I've been kind of standing on that for a while, and I do appreciate people's patience. I will say this as a matter of as an update. We have worked in the past with Active Transportation Alliance on the creation of our bike map, our paper copy, which is still a very popular item. We still intend to update that and print that out regularly. In fact, I would like to get a new run put out within the next month or two, but they're not in the business of doing that anymore. That's the bad news. The good news is they just sent us the files so we can actually do all the updates ourselves. So it's going to go a lot faster. So once I get control of the files, work with the GIS on that and do the updates accordingly, we will put out another probably a 22 edition ahead of our larger update, which is we try to aim for larger map updates every 2 years, paper map updates every 2 years. So that'll be in 24. But the app itself, the map app, the online application will be continuously updated, and that'll be more real-time information for everybody. So any questions on the map or map app? And if people need more of the map, I would appreciate you letting me know. We are going to make a run of several thousand copies and would like to get that distributed throughout the region as soon as they get sent to us, hopefully by the end of September or October. Any questions on the map app or map itself? You might be on mute. You might be on mute. Okay. I'm hearing nothing, so I'm just going to move on, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Thank you. The Old Plank Road trail study. What I'm going to bring up on the screen here is the timeline of development. Now, for people that are not understanding what this project is all about, Cook County gave the south suburbs, Sauk Village primarily, about $300,000, and we kicked in at NERC $50,000 to create a feasibility study to extend the Old Plank Road Trail from the Pensy Greenway all the way to Chicago Heights, probably a distance of about 11 or 12 miles. The Old Plank Road Trail currently exists from Chicago Heights to Joliet, a distance of 22 miles. So you do your math, you'll have your 30-mile corridor there when it's all said and done. But there are some challenges between Chicago Heights and Cherville, and we are in the process of trying to figure out what those challenges are, primarily dealing with railroads and as well as some other type of issues. So this is just a timeline of how you're going about putting together the plan, doing existing conditions at this point, getting into alignments, and then working with stakeholders all the way through to the final completion of the analysis next year by June of 2023. There will be an active website ongoing here, gauging our progress and also soliciting public comments as we go along with the process. For people that are not geographically focused on where we're talking about here, you can see on this map, you have all the way to the right of the screen, the Pensy Greenway, all the way to the left of the screen, the Old Plank Road Trail, and there's your gap. The state line is right there at Linwood. So you have Cherville and Dyer here on the Indiana side, and you're connecting over into that area. Most of it is abandoned Norfolk Southern Railroad. There are several different, I'm not gonna have you read all this stuff, but they're the consultants that we have hired, Civil Tech Engineering out of Illinois. They are doing all this work, looking at the challenges and what different structures are going to be necessary to make this happen. And then we get into environmental issues. I mean, so there's a whole host of externalities that we have to deal with as we go through with the final alignment. I'm not sure if I can show the actual alignment. This probably is the closest one to it, but it's pretty straightforward. If I get to the actual, there you go. If I get to the actual corridor, you can see this blue line that runs, that's pretty much along the old Norfolk Southern Railroad, and that would take it out of Indiana cleanly, get it over under 394 and into Ford Heights area and Chicago Heights. And then there's some steel mills and there's some industry in this area. It actually goes behind the Ford plant for people that are asking. There's other industry out here that we're going to have to jog and juke around and eventually come back to the Old Plank Road Trail. So that's part of the study. I don't think there's anything else here. This might be a better map. Yeah, here it is. This is a good idea. The study area itself goes from the Pensy Greenway. It goes all the way to the Old Plank Road Trail. You see all these potential alignments in Chicago Heights because there is no clean way of getting between those 2 points. So that's really a challenge. Everything in purple is pretty much straightforward. And you even have a dashed line between the Pensy and the Erie Lackawanna. That's very fascinating as well, because that would provide a very strong connection between these two major routes, and it would also land this trail very close to the confluence that's developing here in Griffith at the old at the Oak Ridge Prairie. What is not shown here is the alignment of the old Oak Savannah Trail that comes into this area. So if we could somehow bring these 4 major trail corridors into this one area, I think everyone would be quite pleased with that alignment. But again, this dashed line is not truly part of the study area, but they are going to probably look at it in some detail so we can get some understanding of the feasibility of extending that all the way to Broad Street and Griffith. So quite the exciting potential here on connecting a very large regional system together here. And anybody who's been on the Old Plank Road Trail would understand that that is a very attractive trail going through some very nice communities and some downtown areas. So any questions on the Old Plank Road Trail that I could answer right now on the study? And again, you could be on mute. All right, I'm not hearing anything. So if somebody is kind of desperate to say something, just jump in. I'll take the question. Part 3.3, and I'll go into this one as well, Mr. Chairman, because we have on the line Charles Bradsky. Charles is the transportation projects manager here at NERC, and he is pretty much the overlord of our funding. And we have a pretty big event coming up next month when it comes to funding. So Charles, take it away.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Don't put me on a pedestal. Yeah, we have our NOFA coming up. It should be coming out in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Well, sometime in the middle of September. There is a big push this year with Federal Highway on safety for the vulnerable roadway user, i.e. pedestrians and bicyclists. So There's a lot of complete streets. Probably one of the biggest changes, well, there's several big changes, but I think one of the biggest changes is sidewalks on busy roadways, is probably the best way of saying that. So on a major collector and above, new sidewalks on major collectors and above are now HSIP eligible. So if anyone would like to increase their sidewalks, this would be a perfect opportunity to get those in there. We do have couple other funding categories, carbon reduction program, which is kind of a marriage between CMAQ and TA, congestion mitigation, air quality, funding pot, and transportation alternatives. So there's quite a bit of money in that. And then, of course, we have, and then the new one is called Protect, which is resilience. So rebuilding our our roads and bridges and as well as any trails for resilience for the weather that's coming up, that's been changing as we've seen elsewhere in the United States. Doesn't affect, the weather, global warming hasn't really affected us yet. But not like some other communities, or, we've got floods going on in the south. We have dry conditions out west. So really hasn't affected us in any major way, but we still need to plan for our weather resiliency. There's not going to be a whole lot outside of that. There's not a whole lot of changes in the NOFA. If you look at the NOFA from 2 years ago, that's a good starting point of what you can expect on this year's NOFA. Anything we did differently was just basically allowed those 3 changes in there that I mentioned and tighten up any other loopholes. So is there aren't any questions?
Let me jump in and do some clarification and some translation for people that might not be on the federal speak. NOFA does mean notice of funding availability.
Yes, that's our call for projects.
That's our otherwise call for projects. So for those that aren't as savvy on all this lingo, and I'm jealous. But that aside, so that is what's happening next month. This will be for projects programmed in 26 and 27. Is that correct?
Yes.
So keep that in mind. We're filling up the schedule for 26 and 27. We did receive more money from the bipartisan infrastructure bill, or the IIJA, last year, and that has that'll be reflected. Some new programs, I believe, will be also reflected as well, Charles.
Yes.
Now, is there any one of those programs that you want to highlight that is going to be something new for us, or is it just going to be adding money to the existing pots?
I just highlighted 3 new programs.
There you go. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that, but we also have, and I wanted to make sure that it was delineated because we did just see a new federal funding bill be passed by President Biden, which was called the Inflation Reduction Act, which is probably not what it's going to do, but it is doing a lot of different things with climate, with actually dealing with barrier issues in distressed communities. And we're trying to figure out what that's going to look like. It will not be part of this NOFA only because it has just been signed and the feds have to go through the guidelines and everything else, and that's going to take a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we're pretty confident we'll get something out of that, right, Charles? You're not
I'm
sure.
not going to comment on that until we get it. So
We're not sure. Yeah, we're not sure if the MPOs are going to get any of that money to distribute, or if it's just going to be NDOT through the feds, or the feds. The feds have
So-
distributed money themselves too.
Yeah, with those other two funding pots that we got, we didn't get any extra money. They just reallocated money from one of the other programs, either STBG, CMAC, or HSIP. So I doubt that we'll get any more new monies, but, and if anybody has a question, if you want to know about if a project would be a good project or not, feel free to call either Mitch or myself. We can talk you through it. We really want the best projects to be pushed forward, so we're not going to be nickel and diming anybody. If you put in a project and you don't have all of it, we'll reach out back to you and say, hey, you're missing this or that. We're not just going to say, oh, he's missed this, so, and then pitch it. No, we want the best project moving forward, so, for the region. So
Yeah,
we'll
we're
reach
the-
out to you. We'll work with you on getting what you need.
Yes, we are compassionate bureaucrats. So that aside, any questions on our NOFA process starting next month? We will have, obviously what happens is when we do get these projects in, we're going to have the Pedal and Paddle committee review projects that are under complete streets, that are obviously bike and ped based sidewalk projects, possibly living streets projects, but how that all cuts out and how that all gets reviewed, we will be keeping you abreast about that as we go forward here. Our next meeting is in October, so that kind of dovetails nicely with the end of the NOFA process and into the review phases as well.
So yeah, everybody will probably have all the topical committees will probably meet. I think 2 years ago, they held a special meeting in November or December and kind of hash things out. And
Yeah, we did that over
discuss
Christmas
things.
last time. We're not going to do that again. We
No,
like
that was 4 years ago. 2 years ago, we vowed that we wouldn't do it over Christmas.
Thank you, my friend. So no, yeah, we will not do that, torturing ourselves more than anybody else. So that aside, the other thing I will mention too is that, as Charles had also alluded to, if you have projects in mind, please contact both myself or Charles about that and talk to us about it before you apply. We can help you through it. We can help you with your application. We can jazz it up, spice it up, whatever. Maybe things you're not looking for. So keep that in mind. We want to make sure we're aiding you with the best applications. And I know that I am reaching out to several of you about potential trail projects and other type of active transportation projects out there to kind of get your wheels rolling on that. So beyond the NOFA, the other funding avenue is the last round of Next Level Trails, NLT. When that happens, I don't know. So I'm in as much of the dark as all of you. There is still a significant amount of money left in the pot, and the DNR, Department of Natural Resource, they are the administrator of these funds. And as soon as they can figure that out, and as soon as they can identify how much money they have and timelines they want to put on this, we'll have that out as well. And it could possibly be as concurrent with ours that we're doing right now with our NOFA monies. So stay tuned. We'll certainly let you know. And much like us, if you do have projects of interest that Next Level Trails might be a good source for you, I would encourage you to either talk to me, but really to talk to DNR. And really, if you just go to the Next Level Trails website, do your fancy little Google search, you will find the people to contact about that program. And they can tell you straight up, if it's a quality project or if it isn't, how you can add value to it. So again, highly recommend that avenue for you. So any questions on any of those funding avenues? Okay, back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, good update. All right, we'll continue with Pedal.
Actually, we have one more under PED.
Oh, the 2050 plan update.
Yes, the 2050 plan. Yes, this is about all I really want to show you when it comes to 2050 plan. So we're in the middle of this. You've heard about us getting a survey out. And if you haven't taken the survey yet, please do. If you haven't sent it to your your social media sites. We ask you to please do that as well. We'll have the survey up pretty much for the next couple of months as we're doing this finding meaning phase. As you can see, it finding meaning is supposed to terminate by now, but we're going to extend it and collect information from the public probably till as late as October. But the schedule, as you see here, is to culminate in May, when we have to have the report approved and sent over to the feds and get that done. This is the 2050 plus plan, because everything's a plus these days. So we're going to just be adding some value to our existing 2050 plan, do some modifications. It is the first time that we have hired several outside consultants to work on several aspects of the plan. First time period that we have ever brought in a consultant to work specifically on active transportation matters, which is very exciting. Something that you'll have to keep in mind, this organization and myself personally, we're going to be doing quite a bit of transitioning from much in the way of trail emphasis to network emphasis, and working with communities on making sure their roads can be converted for bike and pedestrian safety, complete streets, road diets, living streets, and the like, and really start fortifying the network through the region. It's great that we have a very robust trail network, and that'll continue, and we'll continue to promote it. But we need more of our streets to be converted for bike and ped access, especially with the amount of traffic that is continuing to pile up in the region. We need people to have alternate ways of getting around this region safely and securely, and not depending on going 2 miles in their car if they don't have to. Again, most trips, well, not most, but about half of trips are about 3 miles or under from your point of origin. So if you keep that in mind, many trips can be done easily by bicycle and even somewhat by foot. But if you ever think about going to your local store by foot or by bike, it could be just a very treacherous experience, no matter how short the journey may be. We're trying to end that. So kind of the theme of our plan, at least on the active transportation part, is making your home your trailhead. So people can just embark from their front door and go safely to different places of destination or recreation nearby their place. So that's one of the overriding goals of the plan. But you can see we have these 3 major phases: finding meaning, purpose, and purpose-driven planning. And that is what's guiding the process all the way through, not only the active transportation element, but all the other elements of the 2050 plan. We did set up shop in all 3 county fairs, which was interesting. I certainly had my fair share of elephant ears, so I'm coming off of that shock, but soon enough. But yes, there's only just so much fried Oreos you can handle in one sitting. Anyway, that aside, we did pick up quite a bit of data from people and handed out many brochures with the survey connected to it. So everyone's interested. Everyone has obviously an opinion, and we took all types of comments, good and bad, and we encourage you to do the same. Now, I don't believe I have the actual QR code on here, but I'll be getting that out via email to all of you very shortly this week. So you can take the take the survey. The survey has a multiple choice. It also has an interactive map function. So if there is a pothole on your street, you could let us know about that. Or if there's a congested arterial, please let us know. This light is wrong. Maybe we need a roundabout there. For a lot of people I met, maybe they don't want roundabouts. So anyway, we'll just gauge that as we go along. So any questions on the 2050 planning process to date? Okay, back to you, Mr. Chairman. And you're on mute, Andrew.
Okay, sorry, here we go.
Okay.
Now we'll go to Petal. If it works for you, Mitch, just after each update, just go ahead and take the next one.
No worries. Okay, I'll go for that.
Okay, first we'll do South Shore Trails, because you can identify who the questions are, so you would know if there are any or not.
Yes, I don't know if Don Parker is on the line right now.
Hi there, sir. I just made it. Sorry.
Ah, boy, go ahead. It's all yours.
I've been busy with other things, so I'm going to say no report today.
Oh, okay.
We're working on some stuff and haven't had time to kind of collect my thoughts. So, yeah, working with Mitch on some stuff.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Make sure the minutes say that in all their elegance.
Okay. It shall be duly noted. Thank you, Don. Going on to the next one is trail counters. I do want to let people know that there are several trail counters that are now in our office, and we need to get them to the people that have ordered them. We are in the process of sending out invoices to you all that have ordered trail counters, and I know some communities have. We have maybe 20. We have quite a bit, over maybe 23 or 24 entities that have participated in this program through the 3 counties that are receiving these high-end trail counters. And again, they have been delivered to us via France, which was interesting for customs, but that's another story. But we got them, and now we're in the process. For those that have been participating, there was an MOU that has been duly executed between us and your entity about the process of payment as well as installation and of actually recording and collecting the data. So those will be sent out, the invoices, that is, from NERC within the next week or two. Once we receive your payment, you will receive your counter. Pretty simple. And we'll work with you on installing that counter where you need it in your community. And then we'll just get that all set up and start collecting data. For those on this call that are trail managers and will be dealing with the trail counters, it's very easy. Walk up with a cell phone, collect the data via Bluetooth, and then you skip on your way. So, yeah, but again, we will work with you on collection and go from there. For those that are on the phone now that really are like, what and one counters, guess what? We're going to have another call for counters. We have another batch of money that we need to spend down, and we're going to try to do that sooner than later this time. Now that we actually know what the process is all about, we have everything in store. We will be asking for your interest, and we would hope every community, no matter if there's a regional trail there or not, does participate in this program, so we can at least find out who's using trails throughout our entire region, no matter how regional or local they are in scope. And again, the counters, just for people's information, they run about $3,600, but we at NERC will provide 80% of the funding for those counters because we're great people and we like helping. Anyway, so any questions on trail counters? I don't know, I hear a bird chirping. Okay, let's move on. So I am going to introduce our feature presentation. And I'm very proud of this because it's a huge win for our region. Town of Munster applied for a RAISE grant. And as you well know, the RAISE grant is what's helping fuel the completion of the Marquette Greenway. We received, they like giving $17 million to the region. I mean, one way or the other, we got it. Munster just received it. And I am happy to say that Dustin Anderson, the town manager of Munster, is joining us. And I think you can take over the presentation with what you need, Dustin, on your end. And sure. He will be updating us on the fantastic win that they received for Ridge Road. So it's all yours when you're ready, Dustin.
Sure. Thanks, Mitch. I think my marching orders are to just go through the process the town took and then kind of highlight the deliverables. And then if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. In 2017, 2018, the town underwent our first comprehensive look at our zoning code since 1985. So, you know, you don't have the same haircut as you do in 1985. In fact, you might not even have hair. So we
speaking to the choir,
the land use framework for what our community had and what our community expected, and took a look at the distance between is and ought, and created a land use code that reflects the desires of our community. Now, some of the things that we found in the wash when we went out to talk to the public in a deliberate and intentional way couldn't be addressed by that private land use. So we went and conducted a streetscape plan for specifically Ridge Road from the state line to Columbia, and for Calumet Avenue, basically from the river to Ridge Road. Those were where a lot of the comments and concerns from our residents were. And with that, we produced a plan to meet those resident expectations. And what that included was a pretty significant road diet, right? Right now, if you've driven down Ridge Road, it's 5 lanes of traffic, which is exactly the same as Cicero in Chicago. And I think completely contextually inappropriate for a town of 23,000 people. And it happens that most of residents in Munster agree. So we're going to take that 100 feet of impervious surface, and we're going to shrink it to one continuous travel way in either direction with center turn lanes where contextually appropriate. We're going to install pedestrian refuge islands. We're going to take what is a 4-foot sidewalk on the north side, and the average sidewalk width will be between 6 and 10, depending on the section of Ridge Road that we're going to work on. And the total impervious surface that takes water, puts it into the stormwater system and not to the river if we're lucky. And if we're not lucky, it goes in the street. And if we're really unlucky, it goes in basements and backyards, is going to be cut by 25%. So we're all probably public officials here. So if your community has a Facebook group, you probably are familiar with the discourse, right? So that's not any different here, but I had an interesting comment from a resident wrote me out of the blue, and she said, most of the people complaining about this probably are just upset that they can't speed through town anymore. And I think intuitively, I think she's right. What do we get for all these amenities for pedestrians and cyclists, kids who want to cross the street without taking their life in their hand to get an ice cream cone? It's going to take about 1 to 3 more minutes to cross from the state line to Calumet Avenue. So that's what that looks like. Now, we engaged with Sam Schwartz Engineering to do this grant application. I have the grant application. I sent it to Mitch. If you want to send that to everybody as like what it looks like, I have no problem, Mitch, if you want to share that. I don't know what the needs of this group are or what your expectations are or anything like that. It's a public document, happy to share it. R&D, right? Rip off and duplicate, feel free. But we did have help with this lift. Looking at what we produced with Sam Schwartz, we could not have done internally. It just flat out. So it was a bit of a gamble. If you're an elected official on this call and your staff says, hey, would you be willing to spend $12,000, $15,000, $16,000? I would encourage you to consider that, because the quality of work and the speed at which that work can be done produces results like this. I have a great staff. I have amazing people, but there's no way that we have the bandwidth or the capacity to produce an application to the federal government and the runway that they gave us. I think it was do you remember, Mitch? It was like 4 weeks, 6 weeks. It was really fast. You're on mute, by the way.
Yes, it wasn't much. Yes, it was quite impressive how you got that together.
So that's what it is. What do we go from here? This grant will be administered by the federal government, not NDOT. And as Marcia or Charles will tell you, I just barely comply with NDOT's. I could just barely keep on top of those requirements. So I have no idea what the federal process is going to be. I do know that it will have to be bid, right? And we'll have to check those traffic assumptions. When we filled out the original streetscape, it was like as the pandemic was winding down. So the counts were funky, right? Like we modeled up, right, rather than modeling down based on what was on the road. We've got about 16,000 cars going east-west there every day. Maybe it's more. Our historical records show it's heading the other way, right? Like fewer and fewer people are using Ridge Road. So the fact that we're going to give it road diet to make space, specifically on the south side of the street. I'm particularly excited about is a separate multi-use path that will traverse the entire length of the town between the state line and Calumet. That's going to be really great. In addition to wider sidewalks on the north side, creates space for retailers, outdoor dining, things like that. So if you have any questions, if you want to see that document, I'd be happy to show and tell. But that's where we're at right now. We got the letter. I didn't believe it. I got another letter. I said, okay. Maybe I'll believe it. And finally, I got a phone call and I said, yeah, okay, it's real. But where we go from here, I think it's going to be a long, detailed process. And I don't know what that process looks like.
Yeah, so I think you can see on the screen this image. Can you all see it? Or you
Yeah,
can't?
yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. This is what Dustin is referring to, how the cross section is going to end up looking. Dustin has better images there. There you go. And
can you see that? I'll give you some cross sections, right?
yeah, give us
Okay,
some. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. That'd be great.
Can you see? Is it coming through? I can't really.
It's coming through. We can see your screen. It's just
Okay.
you probably want to just blow that up to about maybe 150%.
Sure. So this is the match
There you
line,
go.
right? So you can see here, plenty of stacking. So we keep the turn lanes at the intersection. So the idea that we're just gonna, schlap the road in half and everyone's just gonna have to deal with it isn't necessarily true at all. There's more than adequate stacking to facilitate the turning movements. And that's really where you see most of your traffic on Ridge Road. It's not the volume, it's at the intersections. So if you've ever eaten at Bombers and done yoga at Shanti, you got that funky Harrison intersection. This is a great opportunity to fix that. It's just what here's a good before and proposed. Now, I do admit that this is kind of like taking a picture without makeup. The trees aren't in bloom or anything like that.
Mhm.
But this is a pretty representative section of what Ridge Road looks like, right? You got a tiny little sidewalk, some artificial pavers, and a ton of concrete, right? A ton of concrete and asphalt. Here, we extend that greenway, that tree plot into the roadway. We have a wider sidewalk. We're reducing that impervious surface. Rain garden, little nod to the Westlake extension over there.
Mm-hmm. I was about to mention the train in the background. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, I do think that has a little bit to do with the award, right? Like the stars really did align. One of the things I do think also is helpful was that we had broad bipartisan support. We had a letter from Senator Young, from Congressmember Van, from Dan Podgorski over in Lansing, from the school town, from the hospital, right? Like everyone basically around us said, yeah, this is a good idea. So that was not a surprise to get that call from us, because in that streetscape process, we invited them to be on the steering committee. So we had them on the ground floor and they were invested in this outcome because they helped drive this proposed outcome. So you can see the funding breakdowns just as 80-20. Like we're on the hook for $4,285,830. We're going to use tax increment financing that we have been strategically patient with for a transformational project like this. Another thing that helped us was the crash data. A lot of crashes on that stretch. So
let me ask Dustin, you're going from state line and where are you ending up on the east? Columbia. Very good.
Yeah. Also think like that streetscape plan, like when we're talking about that 2050 plan and looking at those opportunities, that's a huge, that was huge to be able to take that streetscape plan that we had public involvement in and then just pivot to a grant application that showed public involvement. because I think that got us a lot of points. The fact that we went out, did our due diligence, and had a broad coalition of stakeholders that did the work, and there's a deliverable for it. Like, Mitch, if you had this idea, it would have been just as good, but if we didn't show the work, they probably wouldn't have got it, right? So if anybody's
Right.
listening and you want to think, another study, it's just going to go on the shelf, what's the point in paying all the consultants? So this is why, because you can take it and you can get money for it. So.
Yep. You could ramp up an application pretty quickly.
Yeah, so here, like I was saying, like here's everyone that were on board with the steering committee. Yeah, so that's what I got. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I talk a little fast, so what do you got?
I appreciate you making the time, Dustin, to celebrate this with us. This is a huge win for Munster. And as you were saying, I just returned back from a pedestrian and bicycle conference, and they talk about people's attitudes, because one of the biggest issues with safety is how our roads are designed. And obviously this project is going to help slow traffic down to make it more comfortable for all intended users of the corridor, especially where Munster is trying to create an identity. And it's great to see that the federal government agreed with that goal here,
Yeah.
Dustin. And just also pointing out too, when you talk about people are complaining, apparently the way it kind of works, because a consulting firm does this regularly that I work with, and they were like, yeah, one of the big things they do is actually they narrow or they lessen the radii of turning. Like instead of these very wide radii you see on right turns, they narrow it back down. That increases the curb amount for people to use, but it also slows traffic because they have to actually take the turn slower. And of course, people complain when that first happens, and they say about after 2 weeks, no one even cares anymore.
Right.
So you're going to have that. And obviously you're going to have that kind of dust up as you start this on, Dustin, but that's what, after, even a few weeks, everyone will be, I think, quite enamored
Just
with
like
it.
when we did the underpass, right? Like people were
yeah.
Oh my God, I'm inconvenienced. And then it was done. It's like, wow, this is really great.
Right. That's just human nature. People have no patience. And if you ruin their routine just slightly, they're going to get agitated, and they're just going to look for something to take it out on. But in the end, this is a great design, and the other communities. First of all, RAISE is a very, very competitive process. So the fact that they received what they did is a testament to the planning that went behind this from Sam Schwartz originally. And again, if any community is even thinking about going for a RAISE grant, you should have your planning ducks in a row ahead of time. I think that's the story to take away from this. If Munster didn't have that plan, I'm sure they probably wouldn't have even tried to apply. But they had their ducks in order, and it worked out great. 17 million reasons why it worked out great. So, and again, the fact that it is taking a very busy street corridor and turning it into a space where pedestrians and bicyclists could be comfortable is exactly what we're trying to do region-wide. So again, a great project to hopefully inspire other communities to do the same. And it hopefully won't take trying to get a massive federal grant to do it.
I was just gonna say, like, we took a swing and we hit, right? But
right,
like, we're doing this on a systematic basis in the neighborhoods. We have a speed team, which is, we call it the speed team, ironically, because it's interdepartmental working group on how to slow people down, right? So everybody gets complaints, oh, you're driving too fast in my neighborhood. So we have a very systematic approach. We take a speed study, right? Here it is. We sit around a table, and part of that streetscape work had neighborhood interventions based on ADT and average speed. So we look at the menu, like, do we install a chicane? Do we install some paint and plastic? Do we do suicidal speed humps? Do we close it? for everybody but pedestrians and bikes. And we're doing that one off. Like each one of those interventions might be, you know, 30, 40, 50, $60,000. And you can get a few of those done if like you say, well, I'm not going to repave 5 lanes of traffic where there ought to be 3. So it's just like reallocating money, because, you know, we all have tax caps. We all have MVH restricted, unrestricted. We all got the same challenges that we have to navigate. So you got to look and say like, okay, a budget's nothing more than a priority list, right? So what do we prioritize? And I'm lucky. I got elected officials in a community that so far have said we prioritize human beings over convenience, right? And that's not universal. And I don't know if it's going to be infinite, but it's the way it is right now. And we're very lucky. So we've got some room to play, try things out. I mean, if you live around Munster, go over on Treadway, right over by Cobblestones, right off of Calumet. Kid got nicked. It was actually probably his fault, like running out in the street, but it's terrifying, right? Like he's fine. But so that like that was the catalyst for this. So we put in paint chicanes and then put in bollards to see what it is, right? So we had the traffic counts before. Now we're going to go out there after they're installed and put the traffic counts in and have some data. And we're going to take that data and we're going to build on that and build on that and build on that. So the number one complaint of residents is like, oh, they're just going to go down XYZ side street and go fast. And the answer that I have that is not glib is like, no, they're not. We're just going to treat that street in a way that's unappealing to drive fast either.
Right.
Like,
no, yeah, that's exactly what we want to do region wide as well, Dustin. I mean, what you're trying to apply here locally in your town, which is inspirational, is exactly the type of philosophy we want to take. And Vision Zero is one of those philosophies, but also traffic calming. And it's again something that we're going to try to really lean into here at NERC and try to promote region wide. And again, with great examples like that are happening in like Munster and Valpo and other communities that I'm aware of. We just want to see this proliferate and hopefully take these streets back for all the intended users, because for too many years they've been used as the fastest way through communities for automobiles, and that's why our crash rates are what they are. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, you're talking about people like this kid who, you know, darted out, jaywalked or what have you. Again, you can't blame a lot of them because there's such a far distance between lights, between safe crossings. What else are you going to do? You're just going to, there you go.
And there's a playground across the street, right? Like,
yeah, well, there you go.
I'm going to take the shortest route to the playground.
Right.
And that I shouldn't have to like go through contortions to make sure that a car gets to drive as fast as possible. I should just make it so the kid can get to a playground as fast as possible. Like that's also a choice of priority, right?
Yep.
Like we're rolling around in 6,000-pound Barca loungers with satellite radio, right? Like we can wait a beat. It's no big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's other campaigns out there calling 20 is plenty and stuff like that, but you're not going to get people to drive that way if it's the road is not designed for it. So there has to be this kind of friction in the system. Ridge Road will now have that type of friction, and that's the type of friction I hope to introduce region wide. Is, you know, where the car should slow down. And interestingly enough, if you slow the traffic down, it'll actually be more efficient for people to get through. So they're not all rushing and stopping and rushing and that's where you get your traffic jams from. Just, you know, people, you know, hurrying up and waiting as they're going through this area. They think they're actually speeding, but they're actually adding to the congestion by, you know, speeding through their area. So anyway, there's all sorts of science. We're not going to bore you any further, but just be on the lookout for that. Any questions for Dustin and the project he has successfully garnered here in Munster? And if you have a question, you might be on mute. I always have to say that. You get a thumbs up from Jan. Well, I guess that's good enough. Dustin, I really appreciate your time today. And thanks for sharing, and big congrats to you and all the Munster officials. This is something really to celebrate.
Hey, and if you ever want to, talk shop, anybody on this call, get a hold of me. Easy to get a hold of. Happy to talk. Happy to compare notes.
He is the
Then
town manager, yes.
I think that's a big win for Munster. Congratulations to you, to the town, to all of your elected officials, and it's a plus for our whole region. When something like this big happens in one community, it's a win for all of us. So,
Well, thank you. I do have an ask for you all on this call. Talk nice about it, right? Like, I imagine that somewhere you'll see, oh, that's my region vernacular almost spilled out on a public call. So that is nonsense. You might hear that the project like this is nonsense or other colloquial terms for it. Just say, no, it's not. You're going to get better stormwater control. You're going to get safer streets, more trees, all for the low price of 1 to 3 minutes. Like that's an easy sell.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Thank you again, Dustin. Floor is yours, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll move on to paddle.
Anybody from the Paddling Association on board? I'm not hearing any, but I do have a report. Apparently someone drowned in Robinson Lake. In fact, 2 people I think were drowned in Robinson Lake. A 19-year-old and I think the father or the mother, I think were both drowned. I bring this up because, they actually went out on a paddle on the lake and they drowned and they had life vests, but they weren't on. They were in the canoe and they weren't on them. And they both drowned. So, as we're trying to improve our paddling network here, we also always have to keep an eye on safety, no matter what it is. It's a seatbelt in a car, it's a helmet on a motorcycle, it's a life vest in a canoe. So, as you continue to work in your particular communities on expanding water trail access, never forget the idea that safety is always first, and tragedy can strike quickly, even on a calm lake such as this was. All right, sorry to be a downer, but that did happen a couple weeks ago.
It's a good point. All right, we'll move on to the last part of our agenda.
Okay, announcements. I have one announcement here. I'm going to show it on my screen. Hold on a second. If you didn't know, they're having another night ride. Valpo just had a night ride. Now they're as usual, and Wham was also another successful ride through Hammond. Munster and Cherville are coming. Right. I guess I got kicked off. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. My computer is playing games with me. All right. So I'm not going to share the screen because apparently that's toxic. So there is a night ride, and I'll send this out to the group via probably our constant contact, or I'll just have it on our Facebook site. But it's a Pensy ride. It's going to be August 27th, Saturday. I guess that's Saturday. So it's going to be 2 days. It'll start at 10 p.m. from Cherville to Munster, and it's sponsored by Munster Parks and Cherville Parks. So I encourage you to get out there. Any other announcements for the good of the order?
Any other announcements? I'm grateful for the large turnout today for our meeting. I thought it was valuable. I hope you all found it valuable. And everyone's available that spoke today to speak one-on-one if you'd like to go and dig deeper into what is happening.
Let me ask just one last thing. Are there any other, well, I'm going to talk about a couple projects real quick. We have projects underway on the Pensy Greenway in Cherville. They're hoping to get that finished by the end of the year. That's from Ormond Park to Clark Road. And then there is the connection between Portage and Burns Harbor at Salt Creek for the Marquette Greenway. That is underway. Hopefully by the end of the year, that'll be all concluded. Are there any other project updates from the group that they'd want to share with us?
Shannon Eason, Michigan City Parks, Phase 3B of the Singing Sands Trail is now substantially complete.
Good.
Good. Yep.
I'm gonna have to take some pictures. Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Alex Brown, Highland Parks and Recreation.
Alex, what's
Hey,
up?
We just repaved the Erie Lackawanna Trail through Highland. It got finished last Friday. It's all done. $400,000 of local funds to repave 3 miles.
Nice.
And I know you wanted me to talk about this, but we've got a plan to put solar lighting in along the trail.
Yes.
All the solar lighting's been purchased. We've had it engineered and sent off to NIPSCO. NIPSCO has given approval to do it, but they wanted locations of every single light that was going to go in proximity to each one of the pipelines that run through the corridor, and then approve each one of the locations. So we're still waiting on approval for each one of the locations, but our plan is to have a solar light every 200 feet along the bike trail through Highland, all the way from 45th Street, all the way to the river, and then the connection over to Wicker Park. So we're ready to go with that as soon as we get approval.
Great.
So yeah, that's kind of a big deal, and thanks for bringing that up, Alex. That will be the first trail in our region that will be lit through a community, one end to the other. And hopefully that'll be a harbinger of other projects throughout the region as well. We do have night riders out there to begin with, but obviously we don't have the lights. So kudos to you, Alex, and yet again, always being ahead of the curve in the trail department, getting the first ones done in the region, and now getting the first ones light in the region. I don't think it's like lights at Wrigley Field, but it's a pretty big deal to me. Does this include lights in Wicker Park as well along the Erie Lackawanna?
No, it does not.
Okay, it's up to Wicker Park.
Up to Wicker Park. If North, Wicker Park's owned by North Township.
Right.
So that would have to be something that they would want to do.
And I only asked that because part of the Erie Lackawanna does go through Wicker Park. So I was just trying to get some clarity on that. But yes, that is their property. Any questions for Alex on lighting? Now that I've got everyone's interest. Okay, the last thing I'll ask everybody is project events, upcoming events. Any events? David?
I had a project that I want to share as of last
Oh,
Friday. We completed
yeah.
our on-street Sharrow route so it's a 1.66 mile route from Clear Lake to Stone Lake. Goes
Great.
through our downtown. We just repaved a section underneath the overpass on Indiana, so no crossing Pine Lake Ave 5-lane road. Which provides a good route, provides more parking in the downtown area, pretty scenic, goes by the lakes. So we got a grant from the Union Foundation, and that was a $1,600 amount. So our streets department, we bought a Sharrow stencil, and last Friday we painted 24 Sharrows. That
My God.
I went out and was guiding them in the process, and I can't, those guys are amazing.
Can you send me some
Yeah.
information on that or pictures you
Yeah,
might have
so
of it?
our Parks Department, they shared a Facebook post. I can
Okay,
send you some
I'll just share that.
information. Yeah. And
Okay.
then we're gonna be kicking off our Trails and Greenways and Blueways plan pretty soon here.
Good.
2 weeks, so that'll be exciting. I hope next year. The other one, Tour de la Porte, is this weekend. It's a half marathon, 5K, etc. And then Sunday is the big bicycle event, different mile routes.
That's this weekend or next weekend?
Yeah, the YMCA has taken that over. This is their second year officially, and so
Okay,
be exciting.
thank you. Thank you, David. Back to Alex real quick. When are those lights looking to be installed? You looking to do it this year?
Well, as I said, it's taken NIPSCO some time to review all the plans and give us approval, but if we get it in approval during, before the ground freezes, we would certainly start putting them in. 65 of them are going to be taking a long time to put in, and we have a feeling that because of the proximity to pipelines, are all going to have to be hand dug.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, fun. All right, that's not fun. I know that's not fun. But so you have them already bought? Are they in-house, the lights?
We have them. They're being stored for us by Higher Electric. They're in their shop. $150,000 for the lights and the poles, so about $2,600 per light and pole.
And how do they hang banners?
There's not banner arms on them, no.
Okay, it's
Doesn't
okay.
mean there couldn't be.
Well, yeah, it's an attachment, right? That's good. That's just, the light alone is amazing. All right, so any other events, anything else for the good of the order?
Shannon Eason again, Michigan City Parks.
Yes,
We
Shannon.
are bringing back our Creekness Stakes canoe race on the Trail
Ooh.
Creek Water Trail. It
Okay.
will be September 24th at Hanson Park. Registration opens at 9 a.m. This is a race in 24-foot wooden Voyager canoes.
Okay,
And the proceeds from our race benefit Trail Creek Week, which is a environmental education outdoor classroom that we host annually at Hanson Park that serves 600 to 900 kids. And I'm excited to say this year that there's going to be a friendly competition between the mayors of LaPorte and Michigan City. So David, if you want to get in the boat, each mayor needs 9 paddlers, so that'll be fun
Wow.
to watch. If you don't want to race, you can donate to the race as a cheering section or just come out and watch it. It's a great time. We have live music, food, craft beer donated by Shoreline Brewery. So it's a really
Oh,
fun
my.
crowd. So again, September 24th, Hanson Park. It's 100 East Street in Michigan City,
what time does that kick off?
9 o'clock. And it usually runs to 2 or 3 o'clock, depending on how many heats we get in.
And do you have any information on Facebook on this or that I can share, or will you have it?
I'll get it to you. I just got it right before this meeting. So yeah, I'll shoot the info out to you.
Thank you very much. That
welcome.
is exciting. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, anybody else? Everyone else good? Going once? Mr. Chairman, you have control.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you for your efforts today. Our next meeting is 1:30, October 27th, Thursday, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there's nothing else to come before our committee, we'll adjourn until then.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.